guys, it's me, Ellie, again. Thank you for watching this video. Today I want to talk about something a little bit different from what I usually talk about in my videos. I want to talk about how to make or buy proper pendulums that will attract only positive entities and guides. Now, before I get started on how to make or buy a proper pendulum, I want to talk a little bit about some background information as to what led me to making this video. So, I've always been a very spiritual person that has been into the divine and always had a lot of spiritual experiences that I wanted more answers about, and I always believed myself to be more in touch with the divine, even though I'm not a Buddhist monk or a priest or anything of the sort. Now, with this being said, for a while I did go down the wrong path. I didn't do anything too insane, but I just noticed things like a lot of bad relationships, jobs that weren't panning out right, and things like that. And come to find out that there's actually a lot of factors that contribute to the whole. There was a lot of lost souls walking amongst us. And one of the reasons why is because negative beings and entities are one of those outside factors that can play a big role as to whether we pick the right job or not, or pick the right spouse or not, buy the right house or not, things like that. And buying divination tools like pendulums are no exception to that. One thing that I really like about pendulums is that you can get straight up answers. I have an ABC board, which I'm going to talk more about later, that has actually let me have full-on conversations with guides, and they actually give me intelligible answers to many of my life's questions. As I've seen and experienced a lot of things that I wanted to know more about. I wanted to know what I saw. I wanted to know what happened to this person. Things like that. Now, with this being said, with this video that I'm making, the guides that I talked to in getting this information all together, I want to give credit to some excellent guides of mine. Odin, Loki, yes, there's a reason why he was very smart in the Marvel movies. It's because he's a very smart guy. Hermes, and a fae named Sivlon. I will say that as guides in my journey into divination, none of these guides have ever misled me. I've actually won money on slot machines. They have identified where things were when I was looking for them, and have said things that were going to be there and ended up being there. Like a certain rock on the ground is going to be right behind a specific car and behind a specific tire and things like that. And then the list goes on, but I will definitely say that divination work is real, and there are definitely some real guides. So anyways, I do want to go ahead and get started on telling you how to make or buy proper pendulums that attract only positive guides like what I have, and to keep away negative guides that will misguide you down the wrong path and, quite frankly, possibly make you another lost soul walking amongst us. Now on to how to select a pendulum. Now, these are some guidelines that you can abide by. I want to agree with picking one that simply costs you, but as I said earlier, there are negative entities and outside forces and even internal forces that can misguide us and lead us down the wrong path, and picking a pendulum or other divination tool is no exception to this rule that I discussed earlier. So, with this being said, there are some guidelines, as I said before, on how to pick a proper pendulum. So, pretty much all Tree of Life pendulums, unfortunately, tend to attract demons and other negative entities. And the reason why is because demons and these other negative entities tend to attach to these type of pendulums basically to mock Odin and his family especially. Kind of like a way to say, you know, you Odin and you Thor and other deities that value the tree of life and generally all good guides, but especially the Odin sons. So it's best to avoid the Tree of Life pendulums you may see online or in the store for this particular reason, as much as I really hate to say it. Because they're pretty, I don't like to deter people from buying certain things or, you know, hurting small businesses, but as I said before, you know, negative entities do tend to attach to these, so people may want to reconsider their selections based on this information that I've received. Now, as Loki put it, bougie shit. I've seen a lot of pendulums with fancy metalwork on the pendulum chain and on the pendulum itself, and they're so pretty, and I wish this wasn't the truth, but the fancy wiring and such, demons and negative entities like to attach to those because they tend to like things that are considered to be superficially very pretty and bougie. So it's things like the filigrees on these pendulums, really fancy wire wrapping. The simple stuff might be okay if it's real simple, not real extravagant. But anything that's got a lot of curly cues and, you know, other decorative looks to it, and where the wire is shining as opposed to the stone, that's another thing that attracts negative entities. And then there's also some resin pendulums that I've seen online. Now, deities and other positive guys actually love resin pendulums because you can put in different things inside the pendulums that they really like, such as feathers, certain stones, certain colors, flowers, and you can put virtually anything that can set in resin and not deteriorate or otherwise fade out or look really ugly down the road type of deal. But with this being said, if you're going to look into something like a resin pendulum, it's probably a good idea to avoid things like if they have like a diamond inside of it or a lot of really shiny stuff and precious metals mixed in, like almost like the fine jewelry kind of look. Pretty much if like the diamond is shining inside of the rock, then it's going to attract negative entities. And what's interesting about me getting this advice, I did read once before that stolen diamonds tend to attract bad luck. So in a way, like if a diamond has a positive guide attached to it, and a servant, which is what demons are called, according to my guide, servants, will attach to those to things like diamonds and other super shiny objects, and kind of like it becomes like a stolen diamond, and therefore attracting bad guys and bad luck and things like that. So with that logic in mind and things, that tidbit does make sense to me based on what I've learned and based on what I've observed and things like that. And then also you want to avoid other certain types of pendants. Like I've seen some gold pendants that are like just downright gold or downright silver or downright copper and things like that. Unfortunately, the servants, demons, and other negative entities do like these said precious metal pendants. So unfortunately, again, I wish that I didn't have to say that, and I wish that, you know, these servants and demons weren't such opportunists, but they are. And frankly, they love the bougie shit that makes a lot of people be like, oh my gosh, I want to make this for myself, that I see on YouTube all the time. And it's just like, nope. If only you knew the truth, unfortunately. But it is what it is. Now, Now, this is something you're going to have to see the stone in order to determine if it's all good. People talk about programming a pendulum. Now, some people think that they can program a pendulum to make it swing the way they want it to. The problem with that is if you're trying to program it to swing a certain way just because you like it, this is not necessarily how pendulums are actually supposed to swing. Now, there's only one correct swing orientation for pendulums. And the reason why is because the good guides all actually attend what are called seers meetings. And then in these meetings, they determine things like how to properly interact with guidees, like people they guide, how to properly make pendulums move, and basically how to properly interact with someone you're guiding, and how to interact with divination tools. And now, so the swing orientations, the proper swing orientations go as follows for, yes, no, maybe, and more information type of answers. So, one of my pendulums, for example, so this is it right here. I'll talk more about the materials that we need for pendulums. So, show me a yes answer. So all pendulums are supposed to swing side to side for yes. Show me a no. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but the pendulum actually turned counterclockwise to change the orientation. When a pendulum is changing directions, they are actually supposed to swing counterclockwise to change the orientation when you are asking a question. And you are not supposed to stop the pendulum when you are asking questions, or pausing the pendulum between questions type of deal is what I'm trying to say. Show me a maybe answer. Show me a more information answer. Okay, so the proper swing orientation, to summarize, they're supposed to go side to side for yes. Back and forth towards and away from you is no. And a counterclockwise is maybe and more information available. So, and then when the pendulum is changing direction, like if you ask a question that, say, am I wearing a red sweater? The answer is no. Am I wearing a gray sweater? See, it went counterclockwise to change from saying no to yes. Okay? Now, with this being said, if you buy a pendulum where the swing orientation differs from that, it doesn't mean, toss the stone entirely. It does mean that there is energy work required for this pendulum. Now, there are some words of advice online for this regarding things like, you can burn certain incense, possibly candles. You could put it in a bed of salt, do the hot-cold method with water. You go between hot and cold, back and forth, starting with cold 3 times for a few seconds each. But you do want to be careful with the hot-cold method for any type of energy work with your stones, because not all rocks, like selenite, for example, you cannot use or expose the stone to water, as it will ruin the stone. So, there are times where a pendulum will swing weakly, and that is a sign that the pendulum may need exposure to an element, or if pendulum is not moving at all, it means that you need to either be in a better mood and show that you're ready to talk to your gods, or you may need to give energy work and let it rest for a while. Now, I will say this, when it comes to incense and such, a lot of people say sage and things like that. I have actually found out that depending on the guides attached to your pendulum, which is, typically if they're good guides, they're going to be, there's a reason why they are your guides together. There is a reason why, if there are good guides that want to reprogram this stone, they actually tend to like specific scents, and they're supposed to agree on the scent offering. Like, for example, I know a lot of Hindu guides, for example, will like things like Indian temple. Certain guides may like something like divine healing, or lavender, bergamot, lemongrass, even sage, especially white sage. They like a lot of different pendulums. So sometimes you can consult like another pendulum that does swing properly, like, just get an answer like, hey, well, exposing this pendulum to this type of incense or whatever for 30 seconds or 15 seconds this hand, 15 seconds the other hand, will this, decorrupt or reprogram this pendulum properly? And, sometimes if there's a negative entity, they might be having an honest day and tell you what this pendulum needs, which is very unlikely. You can also talk to me about it. You can actually consult with me. I provided my Skype information and such, or you can leave a comment below, and you can give me more information about your pendulum, or I can shoot, or talk through Skype, and you send me pictures and of what your stone looks like, and I can talk to my guides, and I can tell you exactly what this pendulum needs to be properly programmed and such. And I can't help you tell you like what kind of energy work it needs. Like, it needs this type of incense, and you need to start off holding your pendulum, the pendulum in question, over the incense smoke for, say, 15 seconds starting with your left hand, and then 15 seconds with your right hand, or 30 seconds in the right, 30 seconds in the left, 45 seconds, whatever. There's a lot of different stuff involved. So with that being said, if you're not comfortable with the energy of a pendulum and something doesn't feel right, or you find that it is indeed a corrupt pendulum and you're not comfortable doing the energy work on it, I recommend moving on to a different pendulum. So with this being said, now I'm going to talk more about modifying pendulums, creating pendulums, or buying a pendulum, and what elements each pendulum is supposed to have in this next part coming up here. Now on to either buying, modifying, or creating a pendulum entirely. Now, there are some guidelines that you need to abide by. If you want to have a pendulum that is properly programmed, a pendulum where only positive guides answer you, get more consistency in your readings, and generally so that you start to go on the right path, if not stay on the right path for you. I did provide a list of things that all pendulums are supposed to have and also not supposed to have. And I'm just going to make a video summary here and show you a couple examples of pendulums that I have for sale at my own Etsy store that has all of these things on there. And I've done all the energy work, and I also will provide a free ABC pendulum printable board for anyone that buys, and a complimentary incense stick that the stone and guides attached to the stone like. Now, as far as the store-bought pendulums go, I'm sure you've probably seen pendulums that have a chain that's something like this, short, simple, has a small little bead on the top, and it has a stone on the bottom. Those pendulums all require modifications because they do not have all of the things that proper pendulums or pendulums that only attract positive guides will attach to, and not have any negative entities basically steal a gem or steal a diamond kind of deal and attract bad luck kind of deal, if that makes sense, like I just discussed earlier. So with this being said, I am going to go over some real quickly what all pendulums are and are not supposed to have. So as far as the chain goes, the chain is supposed to be either a leathery material or a metal chain. Okay. And when it comes to like wire wrapping stuff, you want to keep any wire wrapping real simple, because if you start getting into the fancy stuff, then that does attract demons or servants and other negative entities, which I don't think a lot of people don't want. There are supposed to be 3 beads on the chain specifically, and the maximum to have on the chain itself, like if, say for example, if you have a couple beads attached to the feather that you're wrapping on and attaching it to or whatever, that kind of accessory can have 2 beads, but you don't want to have any more than 5 beads overall throughout the chain, if that makes sense. Even if it's like at the very top of the chain, right below, and is not considered to be part of the charm, you can only have up to 5 beads. And now, for the beads on the chain itself, 2 of them can be, artificial beads, like, something you see in a fashion jewelry necklace, or earrings, or something you would buy at a craft store or something. And then one of those beads has to be a precious stone bead, like quartz, rose quartz, amethyst, citrine, howlite, blue topaz, aquamarine, things like that. That's just a few of many examples out there of what you could use on your stone. See, like this pendulum, for example, here, there's 3 beads attached. 2 of mine are from a necklace that I never ever wore. And when I started making pendulums that I'm actually now starting to sell online and having pendulums for myself, I dismantled a lot of jewelry that I do not ever use. And I was like, you know what? I can repurpose this. Yeah, I'm going to repurpose these. And, the guys are like, yeah, I like these. I like this. I would like this attached to this pendulum. It's like, okay, I'm going to do that. Now, as far as the materials go, with the metals, you want it to be consistent in the material color. Like, for example, you don't want to have a gold chain and then have, you know, silver, silver hoops in the beads, or if you're attached, like I wire wrapped the feather here, you don't want to use like gold wire wrap and on a silver chain, or use a copper chain and have, you know, silver beads or something like that. You don't want to mix and match the metals, those attract the attention of servants and other negative entities, so you want to avoid doing that. Now, one exception to this rule, and the only exception to this rule, like this one right here, where the pendant or the stone attaches to the chain itself, you often will see things like, you know, like it's going to be silver or gold or whatever, but the guides attached to the stone will call for specific materials on the chain itself, and frankly, servants don't pay, and other negative guides don't really pay attention to the metal that's attached to where the chain attaches to the stone itself. So it's okay if it's like silver, because they're not paying attention to it, and frankly, no one's gonna, most likely not gonna be paying attention to that anyways. It might be something that's noticed, but it's not something that you're gonna be staring at when you're doing divination work. So with that being said, you know, consistency is key when it comes to making or modifying pendulums, rather, whatever route we choose to go with that. And then when it comes to wire wrapping, now I did mention filigrees earlier. It's like they're like fancy metal accessories that people put to have a chain attached to a stone type of deal. It's beautiful, beautiful stuff. I won't lie. I wish this was not fact, or I wish I didn't have to hear this, but filigrees, I'm being told, are a no-go because negative entities love the bougie shit, as Loki puts it. Pardon my French, but they like stuff like that. So that's something that you really want to avoid if you want to attract only positive guides to your divination tools and pendulums and such. Now, all pendulums are supposed to have at least one feather. Now, I've had someone tell me that, you know, they believe that, you know, pendulum chains are supposed to be short, so, you know, we get quicker answers, and also that having feathers attached to pendulums are impractical and impede energy flow. Personally, I know for a fact that if a pendulum is properly constructed, like, you know, it's put in the right place and beads are put in the right spot and stuff like that, it does not impede energy flow. And actually, if anything, I find that they can actually make the energy flow better. Okay, so feathers are an offering to gods and to the pendulum itself. You know, demons and other negative entities, the feathers serve as a deterrent for those negative entities, which is why feathers are supposed to be included on all pendulums to begin with. When it comes to picking a feather, though, you want to be consistent in what you have as far as feather materials. Like, they don't want you to mix and match craft feathers with real feathers. I guess it's a difference in the texture, so to speak, and, you know, color schemes and things like that. So, like on this pendulum, for example, I have a white feather that's a craft feather. As you can see, there's only one feather, and it's, you know, if you used a real feather like this, for example, that I found on the ground, you know, doesn't really go. So that's why they say, you know, stick with either fake or real, so it's more consistent, so to speak. Now, with that being said, there are sometimes real feathers that you can use on pendulums. Like, this past summer, I was walking on the beach one day and I found a whole bunch of feathers, and especially since I started going more into my spiritual journey, I started to pick up a lot of feathers, and I mean a lot. There was a day where I found like 40 outside of my job. It was absolutely insane. Like shedding season, I know, but I've just been a feather magnet the last several months, so there's something to that. Anyway, so this one right here, I bought this stone at a store in Myrtle Beach, at a store called Black Market Minerals. I totally love that store, but I don't go to Myrtle Beach a whole lot. So I found this feather on the beach one day, and I was like, oh my god, it's such a pretty feather. Like, it's pure white, and you know, it's one of those things where you barely ever find on the ground, in my opinion. A nice big white feather like that with like no gray or black or any other colors, just white. And when I bought this particular stone, it was properly programmed and such, but as I was consulting with the guides attached to this one when I was making it, and they did say that, you know, you use this feather that you found on the beach earlier this week, as they totally loved it. So, I mean, you can consult with your pendulum, with the stone, the guides attached to the stone, rather, to see if they like everything that you selected for making this pendulum. Okay, so consistency is key. I know some guides also like things like, you know, seashells that you can attach on, like I did for the pink one I showed you earlier. See, it's just a seashell that I found on the beach that, you know, had a hole in it, and I was like, hey, you know, maybe I can put this on the pendulum. And they're like, yeah, we love that. Like, water deities love seashells, and they love coral, they love, you know, things like that, and, you know, maybe like a fake pearl because it reminds them of oysters or something, I don't know. That's just an example of, you know, certain things that, you know, certain guys will like, you know, based on their own personal preferences and logic and such. Now, I do want to talk about some of the don'ts. I did talk earlier about like things like filigrees, precious metal pendants, like the gold ones you might see, stuff with like really fancy wire wrapping. The simple wire wrapping is okay, like, you know, if it's like, you know, like a little, like a couple times around, a couple times this way, or something like that. You know, something that, as long as, you know, something is not really deterring from the stone itself when it's a D-stone dependent itself, I guess. But with the fancy metal work and such, they don't, negative guides are bougie on a very superficial level, and you do want to take care to, you know, make sure that, you know, you stick with, you know, these guidelines so you can attract only the good guides. Now, this might be strange, but I know I've seen a lot of the Tree of Life pendants that, you know, are a nope, unfortunately, and it upsets Odin and Thor and Loki and other Nordic deities, but also upsets other ones too. Tree of Life ones are a no-go, unfortunately. And I've seen a lot of those actually be like a short hexagon shape. Apparently servants, they really, really love those short hexagon shaped pendants. I'm not really sure why exactly. Maybe it's because it has 6 sides and 6 is 6 or something like that. Now, this is going to be very interesting. This pertains to if you're making like a resin pendulum. I've seen it to where, you know, you might have like, you know, holiday stuff and whatever. So the first demons were actually discovered in evergreens by Odin's ravens many, many, many years ago. And that's actually one of the reasons why positive guides do not like evergreen or conifer scents or objects on their pendulums and other divination tools. Now, with this being said, some Fae guides kind of like the evergreens, but you can only pair them, and you can only do it in small amounts, and you can only pair evergreen and shiny objects like little diamonds and such that are not the shining star of the pendulum. Okay? Because like I said earlier, stolen diamonds bring bad luck, and servants tend to steal diamonds and other shiny stuff that reminds them of diamonds. You can only pair these objects with clear quartz. And you may come up with the idea of making like a Christmas pendulum or something. And well, if you're going to be doing something like that, do a very small amount of like evergreen and pair it with only clear quartz. Any other stone and it's no good. Or if you do like a little diamond, pair it with clear quartz and don't make it the shining star, if that makes any sense. Now, another thing I've heard some people complain about, and it's the same person that complained about feathers being impractical on pendulums. So chains are supposed to be at least 7 inches minimum. And now the reason why this is because this gives positive guides time to see if a dishonest negative guide is trying to answer someone that is seeking guidance. And that's another reason why there's supposed to be 3 beads exactly on the chain, is that the beads not only can amplify the stone and the energy flow and such, but the beads themselves also provide a little bit of a pause and give the positive guides a chance to see if a negative guide is trying to answer someone. Now, if you follow these guidelines on making or modifying a pendulum or even buying, ideally they're going to have all these requirements met, and therefore they don't come to your stone. But sometimes, there might be a very strongly influential one that kind of tries to bypass stuff, and the strong positive guys be like, hey, no, let's not, nope, this is not your stone, and your negative guy, you're not answering this person, go leave. Okay, so now if you're doing things like having diamonds or other shiny objects of the sort that's like, kind of bougie-ish, don't pair these with like the precious metals. Like, you don't want it to go like, that Post Malone song Cycle, talking about like all the diamonds and all this other stuff and all this nice jewelry and all this other stuff. Like, you don't want to do that. That servants and demons and other negative entities love the bougie, superficial vanity stuff, if that makes sense. Like, the greed and things like that. You don't want to exceed the max number of any material that I've mentioned in this video, and listen to my summary, which I will post again rather, and after this tidbit, just so you can have a chance to see it twice, or so you have 2 chances to pause and read it. You also don't want to go below the minimum number of any material. So, like, you don't want to lack any feathers. You don't want to have just 2 beads on the chain or anything like that. You want to keep it, follow these guidelines, and there are reasons why these guidelines, I am making these guidelines, and the reason why they are the way they are. Now, I know people have their thing, but I actually have seen videos where people talk about using a real hair for a chain. Like, really? No. Just no. That's creepy, and demons and other negative entities. It's kind of like like a sacrifice of part of your body or something. Like, just no. Okay, let's use something else besides that. Now, I've seen some pendulums, they look cool, like, they have like a little spider web or something like that. There are pendulums out there, they look cool, but you don't want to have creepy crawlers on there. Like, you don't want to have, like, spiders or centipedes or some other creepy crawler insect on anywhere, like in the charms or in a resin pendulum or anything like that. So that is a no-go. Now with this being said, there are guides that love things like butterflies, ladybugs, even bumblebees. Not wasps, but bumblebees. The ones that don't going attacking and stinging everybody. So pleasant insects, charms are okay. Creepy crawlers, no. And of course, you should not be modifying or creating a pendulum that is not properly programmed. So, number one thing, if the pendulum is properly programmed and you're comfortable with this comfortable enough with this guide, ask. Okay. Now, with this being said, there are certain scents to avoid, or in some cases, just ask. And again, I did list this stuff as well. Do ask the guides what incenses they like the most, as this will make the energy flow of your pendulum work better, and things like that. You'll see less clashing. You'll see it less to where you have to smudge it a whole lot, and things like that. So scents to avoid include all evergreens and coniferous scents. Anything that is like a temptation one, like call money, or something that advertises to attract lust and love, and attracting money, attracting good fortune, and basically where it's kind of like you're begging a guy to give you the good stuff, like almost like an entitlement. It's kind of like, that's a nope. Okay, so any of the drug related ones, I've seen opium out there, I've seen cannabis, poppy, stuff like that. As Loki said, the guides don't mind recreational drugs, as long as you're responsible and stuff like that. But they don't want that for the offerings because they don't really do drugs themselves. Okay? Aloe vera, no one really asks for it, but at the same time, it's kind of one of those things where, why would you burn something that is meant to cleanse your house? I mean, I don't really hear people using aloe vera incense anyways, so I don't really see people using that to smudge their pendulums, but it's something I have to mention anyways. Now, this is going to be surprising for some people. Nag Champa incense. This is a popular incense, and one website said it's the most popular in the world, which is a little disturbing, knowing that guides actually do not like it. Okay, so a couple guides that I spoke to about this, they said that it's more of like a deterrent for both negative and positive entities, but it works more at deterring the positive entities. So I would recommend not using Nag Champa as an offering, especially for your divination tools. And then other scents to avoid: patchouli, the chakra lotus incense, cinnamon, black cardamom, moldavite, geranium, rosemary, any of the mints, idlewild, Joshua tree, and copal. Those are the ones that I've been told that you should avoid. Of course, so like guides do have the preferences. So ask your guides. Is this incense okay? Do you like this gem? Do you like this bead? Do you like this feather? As I said before, you should only be modifying or creating a pendulum that is properly programmed, and if it's not, then you need to do the energy work required to make it so it is properly programmed. In this next part of the video, I'm actually going to talk about how you are supposed to interact and be interacted, and how to interact properly with your guides. Alright, now on to how to interact with your guides and how they're supposed to interact with you. Now, a lot of this may sound like common sense to a lot of people, but you would be surprised at how naive some people are, or how arrogant they are in thinking they know something, and you would be very surprised at the beliefs people have about how you're supposed to interact with guides, or how they're supposed to interact with you. And some people just don't question what they're being told, and not really the best way of being. You kind of want to be somewhere in the middle, in my general opinion. But anywho, so that is why I am putting in some guidelines and rules that guides are supposed to abide by. The good guides always attend what are called seers meetings, and that is when guides, come together and congregate about things like how they can properly interact with a guidee or someone that they're guiding. They'll talk about things like, hey, I noticed, I get, better interactions with people when I do this, and, little suggestions and things like that. And, it's like, hey, I know so-and-so interrupted and they didn't introduce themselves, and it's just like, hey, hold on a second, you're kind of supposed to, basically making it so that people do have to answer, if that makes sense. Making it so that guides are held accountable and have to be held up to certain standards. Okay, so with that being said, so the biggest thing that I've heard a lot of people complaining about is coming across posers, or coming across, someone that is trying to interrupt a conversation, so to speak, and not properly introducing themselves. So all guides must always introduce themselves. Okay, and one thing I really love when establishing a relationship with the guide is asking something that they know about me nobody else does. And you would be surprised at some of the answers that you will get when you do this. I've been surprised about some things that they've said to me, and then you can test this theory out with other guides just to be like, hey, do you know that what day I did this? Or, a certain guy be like, hey, I'm the one that nudged you to buy this, or nudged you to pick that certain rock up, or bead up, or chain out, or whatever. There's a lot of, you'd be surprised. And code names are really great, because I feel like code names, they can introduce themselves so that, when they use the code word, it's them. And if you feel like there might be someone trying to interrupt a conversation and they're not introducing themselves or whatever, or you feel like someone could be posing, ask for the code name to make sure you're talking to that guy. And if they can't answer or don't know what the code name is, it's not them. And I've seen it to where, a guy will try to pose at someone like, I have a specific code with Odin, for example. Okay, and then I've seen it, if it's him, he will always use the code. But if it's someone else trying to pose, which I've noticed early in my divination journey, and it's just kind of like, okay, they might say, I'm Odin, but then it's just like, okay, so then why aren't you using the code name? And that's why I love code names. That's to me the golden rule is that guys are supposed to always introduce themselves and to have a code name that you and them know, and only them and only you know. Okay, so totally cannot stress that point enough. All guys are to abide by the proper swing orientations. So again, to reiterate what I talked about earlier. Yes is side to side. No is back and forth. Maybe or more information is counterclockwise. And if you're changing directions, as you've seen, they're supposed to go counterclockwise when changing direction. Okay? And if someone is not abiding by their swing orientations, or, I've seen it early in my divination journey to where a guide will say something like, or a guide rather, say something like, oh, well, it's convenient, and they'll go clockwise to change direction, but it's just like, no, you're supposed to go counterclockwise. And if they get irritated with you, or, try to say it's convenient or whatever, it's like, that's not someone you want to work with. If someone that doesn't want to follow rules, no, you don't want to work with them, because they're not willing to abide by something that's as simple as proper swing orientations, then you don't want to work with them, because, they like try to screw you or lie to you down the road. So don't want to work with that person or guide if they're not going to abide by something simple, or, something like that, Now, all guides need to agree on a specific incense or candle type, or some other exposure to elements to charge or otherwise do energy work on a pendulum. Now, I know that, some guys might like lavender, for example, but one of your other guys might not like lavender. They all need to come to an agreement as to what incense offering they will accept on this particular stone. This is especially if you're using a pendulum that is said to be your guide, where you can call all of your guides to. It's a little bit more important to do that. But if you have like a so-called private line, like when a pendulum is your gem, you call your guides to it. That's called a public line. But when you have a pendulum that has one guide attached to it, that is a private line, if that makes sense. Private lines, you can almost guarantee that, okay, I know they like this. This is what I'm going to offer them. But when it comes to the public lines, they have to agree on it, okay? Now, all guides have to answer to a group of beings called the Kala. Now, the Kala, they are a group of beings, specifically a council of 12 members that, they are the executive, the divine blueprinters. I don't know if you've heard of that term or not, but basically the divine blueprinters, they are the ones that came up with all the blueprints for everything we see, everything we feel, everything that happens. There's many different versions of blueprints, by the way. So there's tampered, and then there's original and stuff like that. So that's one of the reasons why I love that I got into divination, is because I have found out that a lot of my blueprints were tampered with by negative beings, that someone got a hold of the divine blueprints, mind you. So, with that being said, the Kala each have a representative from each of the 12 main races that are involved with all aspects of creation. Okay, so all guides have to answer to this group of beings, and the Kala are all top of the guides. Okay. Now, if a guide is not sure of an answer to a question you ask, like say for example you want to know like what a specific rock or plant is, or you're trying to find water or a lost object or something like that, if the guide you are currently talking to does not know the answer, they need to ask another guide to come and answer the question for you, so you get the best answer possible. Okay, they can't just go making stuff up out of their behind just to, just because. It's like, nope. If they don't know the answer, they will ask somebody else to come with an answer for you. That's the way it should be, in all respects, whether you're doing divination readings or otherwise. Now, as far as how guys are supposed to really behave, they're supposed to be respectful towards you. They're only supposed to speak to you when you are comfortable doing so, And if you wish to speak with a specific guide for a particular reason, that guide needs to leave and bring the other guide to tend to you instead. Now, with that being said, sometimes there are guides that, they're busy doing something else, okay, because they exist physically in the Fey realm. It does exist, I promise you that. And you're going to find this interesting, but higher selves, the astral beings, are actually not as smart as the physical beings. And even the physical beings don't know everything, so, and they all do different things and whatnot. Sometimes you catch them at a bad time and you want to talk to them. It's like, well, you might have to wait a little bit and that guy will tell you what they're doing. So either you can put the pendulum down and do something else for a little while, or you can continue interacting with that guide, or whatever you want to do and decide. That's up to you and them. But if you want to speak with someone specifically, a lot of times the good guides, they will catch on to this and will do what they can to bring the other guide to come to you at that specific moment. So that is that. If you feel like you're having a negative interaction or an iffy response from a specific guide, sometimes it's not, it doesn't necessarily mean they're a bad guide for you, or it doesn't necessarily mean that, there's something that, they're a bad guide, or just, there's something's amiss. They're not supposed to work with you at all. Sometimes there are some people out there, because quite frankly, there are some souls that have to redeem themselves and clear past karma and such. Certain gods, deities and such, may not like you, frankly, because they don't like something you did, or you may want to work with someone, but they're hesitant about working with you. And you want to know why. Now, all good guides are supposed to abide by rules, okay? Honesty is big amongst them. That's like one of the golden cardinal rules of divination, is that guides are supposed to be honest. Are they going to be 100% correct and know absolutely everything? No. But they have to be honest. Now, that being said, you can ask someone, is there something I need to do to redeem myself? What do I need to do to make things right? What do I need to do to redeem myself in the eyes of the divine? And what do I need to do to be a better soul, a better person? They'll tell you. Like, hey, I don't think it was right when you did this, or you did this in a past lifetime, and in order to clear this karma, you need to make peace with this person, or you need to go on this trip and, visit a grave, or, whatever. There's all kinds of stuff that, I probably have not heard of, and you may not have heard of either. You would be surprised. So with that being said, those are some guidelines for how guys are supposed to interact with you and how you should interact with them. If you're not comfortable working with someone, you don't have to work with them. And that's one of the complaints people might have about pendulums, is that there's either a weak, slow movement, which means it needs energy work, or if it's not moving, it means it needs energy work and rest, or it means you're not ready to interact with the guys more directly like this. Because I know people are afraid of things like, oh, that's the devil's work, or it's going to attract negative spirits like Ouija boards or something like that, which is, if you follow the guidelines that I prescribed in this video, you will be okay, I promise. Okay, so I did leave my information in this description of the video. You can send me a message. You can leave a comment below and say, hey, I have this pendulum and it's doing this, or if you want to know more about your pendulum specifically and you want me to guide you through it doing energy work, I won't charge anything, and I don't expect you to buy anything from my Etsy store, or I'm not going to ask for donations and call it, payments or anything like that, because the biggest reason why I even made this video to begin with is because I want people to be properly guided, and I want people to be the best versions of themselves they can possibly be. And I know that I myself was misguided by negative beings for a while that led me to bad relationships, lost a couple of jobs a couple years ago, just went through a rough patch, and it was because I was being misguided. Okay, it can happen to anybody, and I'm trying my best to make it so people get off the wrong path and go on the right one for them. Or if they are on the right path, they stay on the right path. Or if they're just lost, let's help them find the right way. That is what I want to see personally. I mean, would I love if people buy from my Etsy store? Of course. Everybody's in business to make money. It's a hobby of mine. I want people to be on the right path, and I make all my pendulums that I sell following these guidelines, so people are less afraid of pendulums, and so that people have positive interactions with the guides meant for them, not someone that's going to pose or someone that's going to lie and mislead you down the wrong way and stuff like that. So I am not affiliated with this website whatsoever, okay? There is a website, it's called subtil.net. I mentioned it in the description of this video. I was able to make my own ABC board and print it off, and I have an account with them so I can print off more boards if I wanted to and make my own. And I did save a PDF of mine just so I can reprint if the paper gets crumbled up or whatever, because I take my main pendulum everywhere. So okay, so I came up with this one personally. And again, I did provide a link below, but I really love this one because like the letters are really close together. And I'm personally am a fast reader, so my guides, they will go at your reading pace, so to speak. Like the letters, it's all in a circle, and it's a little bit easier to keep track of proper swing orientation, like when they're changing letters and such. Or switching to numbers, switching to what kind of topic they want to talk to you about, and stuff like that. So, I mean, you can go on that website or some other website or whatever. I really love the ABC boards. I can't stress the importance of them enough. And that's why I really love this website. It's free. You can print it off. You can take the pendulum and this printable board anywhere you go in a little bag, something like this that I always carry mine in. And I fold it up okay, and then put the pendulum in there, and then in the board, and then I will do, and I can consult with guides wherever I am. People think I'm weird, but I don't really care. I'll do readings in my car or whatever, and so people are more fascinated than anything, because it's like I have full-on conversations, and these things move on their own. I promise you, there's someone behind it. But yeah, so with this being said, I hope you found this entire video to be educational, at the very least interesting, and I hope that this helps you get on your right path. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope that this ended up being very helpful and maybe gets many souls put on the right path. Thank you for watching this video, and if you have not subscribed, I ask that you please do so. Please check out my Etsy store if you're interested in at least checking out what I have and seeing different examples of what you can make yourself. Or I would prefer you buy from me personally. I'm not gonna lie, we're all in business to make money, but you can contact me about your specific pendulum to see what it needs for energy work. And I don't expect anything in return. Just, a little thank you would be nice. And I hope you have a good night. And I look forward to reading your comments. And maybe purchase this on my Etsy store. Or, messages on Skype or whatever. Hope you have a good one.